Hey Bulldogs, it's Mrs. Mulder with our weekly reading. So maybe you've heard that today Perseverance is landing on Mars. And this is a special project to me, maybe your teacher shared with you, but my husband has been working on this. He built all the cameras, so everything that we see coming from Perseverance will be from cameras my husband built. So today the story that I chose is called Curiosity, the Story of a Mars Rover by Markus Motum. This book came out when Curiosity went to Mars. There's some similarities to it, and I just thought that since we're talking about Mars, we would read about Curiosity today. So let's see if we can get all of the book in there. Wherever you go in the world right now, wherever you are in the world right now, I'm a very long way away. I'm not even on the same planet as you. I'm a Mars Rover. A rover is a moving robot built to explore far-off places. Places too far away or dangerous for humans to visit. How did I get here? Why was I sent? This is my story. Humans have always wondered about Earth and its place in the universe. Although scientists have made great discoveries and explained some of the mysteries of space, the planets hold their secrets well. Many questions remain unanswered. Of these, one question intrigues humans above all others. Is there anybody else out there? Scientists decided that the best place to look for life was on one of our closest neighboring planets, Mars, the red planet. In addition to being one of our two closest neighboring planets, Mars is the planet in our solar system that's most similar to Earth. Scientists think that in the past, Mars may have had environment similar to ones on Earth today. Mars is covered in red dust now, but there's evidence that millions of years ago, the planet may have had lakes, flowing rivers, and even great oceans. Why does this matter? Because on Earth, water is a necessity for life. However, there is one problem. The trip to Mars in a spacecraft can be over 350 million miles long. 350 million miles, or 560 million kilometers, is a distance much, much further than any human has ever traveled in space. Even with our modern technology, we don't have a practical way to get humans to Mars. The journey would take at least 6 months, or to get them back. Humans have been able to explore closer to home. On July 20th, 1969, Apollo 11 landed on the moon. Astronaut Neil Armstrong took one famous step and became the person to set foot there. For the few hours he and Buzz Aldrin walked on its surfaces, people could look up on the moon and know that someone might be looking back at them. Mars is about 200 times further from Earth and the moon, a journey that is currently very difficult for humans to undertake. The red planet is also an inhospitable environment. But what if it were possible to send an explorer who didn't need food, water, or oxygen? That's where I come in. So, scientists at NASA, or the National Aeronautics and Space Administration, came up with the idea to send robots to Mars in humans' place. The robots would need to be able to move over rough terrain with all the equipment needed to collect data and samples. So the scientists began to design rovers like me. So we've got an Apollo astronaut, here's the Mars Rover, and showing it getting to Mars. The project to build and design Mars rovers was, and still is, based at the Jet Propulsion Laboratory near Los Angeles, California. I needed to be larger and more advanced than any of the rovers NASA had built before. Previous successful rovers had taken photos of Mars, giving NASA never-before-seen images. Other missions were orbiters and flybys flying around or past Mars to gather information without ever landing on the planet. By 2007, 39 missions to the red planet had been launched, and over half of them ended in failure. Some of these earlier missions had become lost in space, while others crashed into Mars, never to be heard from again. The lab where I was built has to be kept as clean as possible. Everyone has to wear white coveralls, which were named bunny suits. These suits stopped germs and dust from spreading to me and my equipment. So my husband wears this every day. The team doesn't want didn't want to think they had discovered tiny forms on life Mars, only to realize that it was Earth bacteria I had brought with me. So this is them in the lab. Entirely new technologies had to be invented for my mission. I needed to be able to carry a lot of equipment to test what I found on Mars, my own portable laboratory. To give the mission the best chance of being successful, years of testing were needed to make sure everything would work correctly the first time. After all, if something were to go wrong on Mars, no one could come up and fix me. NASA had a rare competition for members of the public to choose a name for me. Some of the names considered were Adventure, Journey, Pursuit, Vision, and Wonder. The winning entry was submitted by Kiara Ma, who was a 6th grader from Kansas. The name she picked for me was Curiosity. And then I was ready to fly to Mars. It was best to launch eastward and close to the equator to get as much energy from Earth's spin as possible. This also meant that it was safest to launch where the ocean was to the east, just in case something went wrong. So I had to be taken to Florida to begin my space mission. I boarded a carrier plane and flew from Los Angeles to Kennedy Space Center in Florida. The rocket that would take me into space was waiting for me in Florida. The Atlas V rocket is around 200 feet or 61 meters tall, height of a 19-story building, and it's almost all rocket and fuel. That is because it has to be powerful enough to launch whatever it is carrying, known as its payload, into space. The Atlas V is known as an expendable launch vehicle, which means that its parts can be used only once. I was placed inside the nose cone at the very top. The cone is like a shield that protects the rest of the rocket as it breaks through the Earth's atmosphere. My launch date was chosen carefully so that I had the best chance of a successful launch and the shortest trip possible. Because planets orbit the sun at different speeds and distances, sometimes they are far apart and other times they are much closer together. Every few years, Earth and Mars are lined up so they are relatively close, allowing missions to reach Mars more quickly and using less fuel. If I missed this opportunity, the mission would have been delayed for years. Launch day, November 26, 2011 arrived. I was ready to fly to Mars. In the control room, the team ran through the final checks. At last, the rocket was ready for countdown. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Liftoff. The first part of my journey was breaking through Earth's atmosphere and reaching space. Once Atlas V's various boosters had done their job of getting the rocket into space, they broke off and fell safely into the ocean. So this tells about all the different rockets or boosters falling off. After 253 days hurtling through space, I finally arrived near Mars, traveling 13,000 miles, 21,000 kilometers per hour. Next would be the trickiest part of my entire journey. No rover or space mission had ever tried the type of landing I was programmed for. It would take 7 minutes from the time I penetrated the atmosphere around Mars until I landed on the surface. The team at NASA called it 7 minutes of terror. If I had been landing on Earth, the atmosphere would have slowed down my entry. But Mars has much less atmosphere than our home planet, so as soon as I entered the atmosphere, a huge parachute opened and slowed me down to about 200 miles or 320 kilometers per hour. I was still moving too fast, so I dropped out of the back shell, and for a few minutes I was free falling to the ground. Suddenly, the powered descent vehicle, which was holding me, fired 8 rockets, slowing me down almost completely. Then I was ready to be lowered to the surface on cables, known as the sky crane maneuver. Once the descent vehicle detected slack in the cables, I knew I must be on the surface of Mars, and released the cables. I had made it. As soon as I was safely on the surface, I sent a message to my NASA team, letting them know that I had landed. Because of the huge distance between Mars and Earth, the message took 15 minutes to get back to Earth. It was a tense time for the control room as everyone waited. Then the words everyone wanted to hear were read out. Touchdown confirmed. We're safe on Mars. It wasn't just the NASA team who had been watching my landing. All around the world, people tuned in to see if I had arrived safely after my long journey. Crowds gathered in New York Times Square to watch on a giant screen. It was an exciting but scary time. After all, it was just one thing if one thing had gone wrong, all contact between me and the team back at Earth would have been lost. When they heard I'd landed, some people cheered. Others breathed huge sighs of relief. The next thing I did on Mars was send images of myself back to NASA to make sure I hadn't been damaged during the journey. My landing had been perfect, if a little dusty. The site had been carefully selected by scientists as a place likely to have evidence of water. Now it was time to start looking. Since 2012, I have been exploring Mars. The NASA team looks through my 17 cameras and chooses potential spots on the surface that may have evidence of life. Once something is identified, I move forward. I can move more than 600 feet, 200 meters per day. NASA also wants to understand how Mars was formed and how it changed over time. The deeper I dig, the more information I gather. I drill into rocks and scoop up material, then I test it in my onboard laboratory. Gradually, by piecing together information from different locations, NASA hopes to build a picture of the planet's past and perhaps discover why Mars changed from being a warm planet with water to cold, dry planet it is today. So here he is roving about. This is a long one. There are many questions still to be answered. What was Mars like long ago? How suitable is it for life? Did it once support any life forms? The tests I carry out will provide many answers as possible. Most likely, the discoveries I make will lead to more questions. With space exploration, questions can be just as exciting as answers. Thanks to the curiosity of explorers, Neil Armstrong's footprints are on the moon, and now my wheel tracks are being left on another planet. Perhaps one day soon, footprints for the next generation of explorers will leave their mark here as well. Curiosity is the passion that drives us through our everyday lives. We have become explorers and scientists with our need to ask questions and to wonder. We will never know everything there is to know, but with our burning curiosity, we have learned so much. Kiara Ma. And Mars Rovers, the glossary, and thanks for being patient. That was a long one, but I think it's kind of interesting. Probably pretty soon we'll have a book about perseverance that we can read. So I hope you guys have fun and are able to watch the landing today. Take care.